Am I the asshole for commenting on my partner's lack of a hairline when he keeps making comments about my weight? We had a daughter last year, and I've put on about 30 pounds. Now, even though I've gained weight, I don't think I'm fat. My legs have just gotten thicker. Anyways, he keeps making comments saying that I haven't stopped eating since I've gotten pregnant. Yesterday, I was preparing a snack for our daughter when he said, quote, "Why don't you move out of the way? You don't see you're big." He tried to play it off after and said he was just talking about my butt. It really hurt my feelings. So I said, quote, "At least a fat person can lose weight, but your hairline is never gonna grow back." For context, he's 27, but the front of his hair and the middle have thinned out a lot. He's very self-conscious about it to the point that he won't leave the house without a hat, and he'll turn back around if he realizes that he forgot to take it with him. He's been angry at me since I made the comment, but I feel like if he keeps talking about my weight, then I can talk about his hairline. Am I the asshole?
About the time I went to Walmart and I walked in and I got a shopping cart and I walked past the customer service area where I heard the sound of a very distressed woman, so I paused for a moment and I looked towards the sound, and there at the customer service desk was a woman who had like an 8-ish-month-old baby on one hip and a wieldy car seat box on the other hip, and she was clearly trying to return the car seat, but the customer service lady was not having it. And the woman was like, "I hate this car seat. It doesn't fit my baby. I think my baby's too big for it. It's just not a good car seat. It doesn't work. It's broken. I don't want it. I want to exchange it, get my money back." And the customer service lady was like, "No." So the woman was really upset. So this is the moment where I should have minded my own business. I should have just walked away, like, not my circus, not my monkeys, but like my biggest personality flaws. Like, if you look like you need help, like, your circus is my circus, babe. Like, let me hold your monkey. So I walk up to her and I'm like, "Hey, like, I'm really good at installing car seats if you need some help," because like I'm a very experienced mother and I've read all the laws, all the regulations, all the blogs, all the websites, all the manuals, and I know what I'm doing. And most car seat issues are user error. So like, it's very possible that her car seat is perfectly fine and suited for her baby and she just doesn't know what she's doing. So the woman turns to me and she starts telling me about how this car seat was a gift from a rich side of the family at her baby shower, and it's a really fancy car seat, but she's not bougie like that. She just wants to get her money back and get a cheap car seat because she doesn't even like this fancy car seat. And then the customer service lady tells her she has to leave, which I think is kind of odd, but I don't think a whole lot of it. And I'm like, "Well, if you need my help, I can help you." And she's like, "Yeah, can you help me? Because the straps are so tight, I can't even get my baby into it." And I'm like, "I can definitely help you with that." So I follow her out to her car and I take the car seat out of the box, where I immediately see why they wouldn't let her exchange it. It's filthy and it's old and it's clearly been heavily used. So I install it for her though, and I show her how to adjust the straps, and she seems like she's listening, but then suddenly she sees something out of the corner of her eye and she like stops and she hands the baby to me and she says, "Hold him, I have to go throw down." And I'm like, I don't know what that means. So suddenly I'm standing there holding a strange baby, and I don't even know how I got here because the only thing on my grocery list were sponges and wheat thins. But anyway, I watch as this woman runs across the parking lot, and an image that is burned into my mind. She like hikes up her pants and in record speed throws her hair up into a messy bun and proceeds to charge a woman wearing a tie-dyed shirt at the other end of the parking lot, and she like knocks her to the ground. She starts punching her, and I have no idea what to do, but suddenly there are police everywhere, and the police like grab this woman and they handcuff her and they put her in the back of a police car. And I look at the baby and I'm like, "You seem like a really nice guy, but like I can't keep you." So I walk over to the police and I'm like, "Hi, like this baby belongs to the woman you just arrested." And the police officers are like, "Do you know what the baby's name is?" And I'm like, "No, like I'm supposed to be in the wheat thins aisle right now." And the police are like, "Well, how did you end up with this baby?" So I explain the whole story to them and they're like, "You know that she just wanted to exchange the car seat so she could buy drugs, right?" And I was like,
have you heard of the Can You Hide game? We've all heard of Bloody Mary, Charlie, and those games are scary, but they're nothing compared to the Can You Hide game. It's not something you can find on the App Store or the Google Play Store. There's nothing about the game on any public websites except this cautionary post. It doesn't matter if you're a good or a bad person, it chooses its targets randomly. No matter how hard you try, you can't avoid the game. Nobody can. First, you're gonna hear a ding on your phone, and then a window might pop up. All it will say is, "Can you hide? Yes or no?" Make sure you pick no. When it first appeared on my phone screen, I was shocked. I thought it was like some sort of virus, and there's no option to close the window. There's only yes and no. I didn't want to infect my phone, so I decided to do some research first. I tried to Google it, but I couldn't find anything about the yes-no game. The only thing I could find is one thread that pointed me toward a Discord server. There was an entire category for this new game that started appearing on people's phones. Clicking yes apparently starts a hide-and-seek game with the unknown. When I read that, I was like, I don't know what this means, so I kept reading. The first person on the thread said, "Can anybody help me? Nobody seems to know anything about this game. My friend played it nonstop for a week and then he went missing. That was 2 weeks ago. There are daily search parties, but I don't think they're gonna find him. He told me it wasn't a game. He said he saw a face outside of his window. Some people said you have to select no. Other people said it destroyed their life. Some people said the only way is to not choose anything. Just leave it on your phone forever. Someone said, what if I just turn off my phone? The last comment on the thread, it's your funeral. Just choose yes or no. It's not that hard. I had finally decided what I was going to do. I turned my phone off and I took it a step further. I reset my phone to the factory settings. But when the weekend was over and I met up with my friends, I found out my friend Corey had been playing the Can You Hide game. I was about to tell him that he was supposed to choose no when he threw down his phone. It was already open to the game window. Apparently he'd been playing it all week. On the phone screen, there was a map with a little green marker indicating his location. Then there was a little red marker that was slowly getting closer to us. Every day, once a day, from 2 to 4 in the afternoon, Corey had to hide. It tracks your location, so you have to keep moving. I checked my watch. It was 10 minutes to 4. But Corey wasn't hiding. He was in the park with me. And the red marker also just arrived at the park. It had found Corey and my gut told me something very bad was about to happen. Then Corey jumped up and screamed. That's a wrap. 4 o'clock again. I bested the game. But when he checked the map, it was only 100 feet away from him. I checked his phone. It read, you avoided the creeker by 121 yards. Then I heard something that terrified me. There was a creak. I looked up from the table and looked around. Corey didn't even seem to notice the sound. I checked Corey's phone again, this time looking for the red dot on the map. It was in the forest about 100 feet away from us to the left. So I looked over there. Peering around the bark of the tree was one of the scariest things I've ever seen in my entire life. There was something looking directly at us. It was not human. It was as short as a toddler, and its head, if it had a head, was wearing this peach-colored rubber mask. Almost the tone of human flesh, but not quite. But worst of all, it was smiling at me. I told Corey, it looks like someone is actually seeking you. I pointed at the tree. I don't think you should play that game anymore. He looked over and didn't see anything and told me that my phasmophobia was really killing his mood. And I mean, I do have a proclivity for trembling at everyday sights and sounds. In my mind, there's always been a ghost or ghoul around the corner. Ever since my parents passed, I had been that way. But I knew I had saw that thing behind the tree. But since I have phasmophobia, it makes it very difficult for people to believe me when I think I see or hear something. My friends told me to go home and just get some rest. At this point, I was starting to think maybe I am going crazy. Maybe I'm on the verge of a psychotic break. The next day, around 5:30 in the evening, on my drive home from work, Tanya called me. She was one of my friends that was in the park the day before. I said, I'm driving, what's up? And then I realized she was bawling on the other end of the phone. It's in the house, she whispered. The game started playing, it's earlier than usual. I said, slow down, what's happening? She said the game started at 6, and I think you were right. I think someone's actually seeking us. We saw a horrible face in the window. There were creaking sounds in the house. We were hiding in the attic. I asked her if she had called the police and she said they were on their way. It would be about 15 minutes. Then Corey told her they needed to be quiet. And then on the other side of the phone, I heard a creak. It sounded so close that I turned around to make sure that nightmarish demon wasn't in my car. At that point, I decided not to go home and to go check on them. I was only 8 minutes away from Corey's house, closer than the police, but not by much. I was still on the phone with them and I heard Tanya whisper, how did it even get in here? I didn't see the door open. Then Corey goes, he's not an it, he's just a child and he needs to leave her. He didn't get to finish his sentence because Tanya interrupted him screaming, what is that? Corey started to beg. The screams of my two friends were deafening. I was so fixated on reaching the house that I didn't hang up the call. It was only as I pulled into Corey's driveway that I realized I had been listening to the sounds of squelching, snapping, and the most haunting of all, creaking. I barged in the front door and ran all the way up to the attic. I expected to find some sickening scene. The space was empty, and Corey and Tanya were gone. The police questioned me when they arrived, but my alibi was airtight. The call to the police was made before I had even left my office, and traffic camera footage put me too far from the scene of the crime during the call. The final verdict? Missing persons.
Ready
Ready with me while I tell you a story about my mom's crazy past. Back in the day, it seems my mom used to exclusively date slug dealers. Don't ask me why. She was acting too grown, too quick, too soon, if you ask me. But we're gonna call this one D. So D and my mama used to stay together. They used to throw hands with one another. Well, one night they got into an argument and they throwing hands. And of course my mama throwing hands back, but she was the type, I'm gonna get my lick back and it's gonna be worse than yours. So when D went to sleep that night, she decides to take a bat to this man. A baseball bat in his sleep. Of course, he wakes up well and screaming, pissed off. He calls my nanny on some, you need to come get her. She crazy, this, that, and the third. I'm done with her, yada, yada, yada. Shocker, they were not done with one another. They made up somehow, some way, and they got back together. Well, tell me why my mama found out that D was out here cheating. Are we surprised? No, I ain't never heard of a faithful slug dealer in my life. Anyways, instead of just leaving, she wanted to leave with a bang. And she wanted to hit this man where it hurt, his pockets. Now, one thing about D, he was a smart slug dealer. This man had a legitimate business. He had a car wash. He was not only washing cars, but he was also helping his daddy flip cars. They used to flip hoopties. So my mom decides she is going to go to his car wash while nobody is there. She busting windows, ruining equipment, taking chemicals, pouring it all over the place, making sure it's completely damaged. She goes out to the parking lot where D's daddy's cars was that they had refinished to flip and sell, and pours chemicals all over, ruining the paint jobs, and then bust the windows out the car. Now, after she did that, tell me why she pages this man. So he knows it was her. Mama wasn't no fool, though, so she didn't explicitly give detail, making it seem like it was her. But between them, they knew what it was. You know what I'm saying? So she's zooming, trying to get back home because she had already started moving out. She already knew this was going to be the end. Tell me why they caught up with each other in traffic. He tries to run my mama off the road. My brother was in the car. My oldest brother. My little brother slings forward. Boom. Hit his head. My mama was done for at that point. So she's zooming to get to the house, right? Long story short, they make it to the crib. He get out the car. He's screaming, cussing. She's screaming and cussing, letting him know, you going to jail. You hurt my son, yada, yada, yada. Meanwhile, somebody up the road, ironically enough, they were related to us, heard the commotion because they lived up the road and called the police. Police showed up and they talking about some, you need to calm down, ma'am, yada, yada, yada. When they heard that he tried to run her off the road and that he, again, was a known slug dealer, she didn't snitch. She ain't the one that called the police and she didn't tell him he was a slug dealer. It was known that he was a slug dealer. So, of course, the officers really quickly was on some, oh, let's avert our attention to this man because we got us one, right? So D is trying to tell the officers that she done ruined the car wash. She cussing out, talk about she still got the chemicals on her shoes. And this is where my mom moving out was really smart. She gonna say, I've been moving out all day. You see the boxes and the cleaning supplies when I was cleaning out the bathroom to get my deposit back. I ain't gonna tell you how old my mama was, but she was too smart for her time. Because why in the world? Criminal activity, ma'am. So they end up arresting D. This man got sent to prison. But when he got sent to prison, why he get my mama name tatted on his back? My mama gets D sent to prison, right? And tell me why, while D is in prison, why is my uncle his cellmate? That is absolutely ridiculous. Not to mention, this makes matters worse. Why was my daddy the one to put my uncle in prison? Can you tell we from a small town? Not as small as the town that I live in now, but we are from a small town. Now, this was before my daddy was my daddy and my mama dated my daddy, okay? Anyways, while my uncle and D are cellmates, tell me why D gets my mama's name tatted on his back. So, of course, my uncle calls my mama on some, Jamie, I don't know what you've been doing out here, but you need to calm down. You need to slow your roll. This gon' you. And she on some, he ain't about to do nothing. She was real rowdy, okay? My mama was just out here ratchet in these streets. It's kind of funny when I see people get aggressive and loud today and how they are. And, like, I low-key be like, I'm sorry, but my mom's name is Jamie. You have to come a lot harder than this if you want me to be intimidated because she crazy. Nah, she ain't like she used to be. But she was crazy. Okay? Anyways, so my mom like, he ain't gonna do this, that, and the third, yada, yada, going in and out. He's like, nah, this man done got your name tatted on his back. He ain't playing no games with you. Well, D calls my mama and thanks her for getting him sent to prison. Why does he thank her for getting him sent to prison? Because tell me why. D was dealing in his own slugs. His own slugs. So going to prison got him clean. So he's appreciative of that. Obviously, that was a plot twist in and of itself because I'm thinking there's no way this man is going to get his name tatted on your back. If anything, he out here got somebody ready to, bust a move because you got him locked up. But no, not only does he thank my mama for getting him sent to prison. But explain to me why the same brother that can't stand, well, now it's not the same story, but back then couldn't stand my mama, was like, you gonna get what's coming to him. He had his brother going to my mama's house to give her rent money, grocery money, paying them bills. Now, all I got to say is, Miss Ma'am, you grounded me from church when I had a little attitude, because all I did was go to school, go to work, and go to church. Yeah, let that sink in. Let that sink in a little bit. Okay, I love you though, mama. The crazy part is, I have known D my entire life and have never understood how their relationship was. Because this is a solid man. Like, he show up each and every time. If anything, in a case of emergency, I know we can hit up D. But D, I didn't know this was the story behind it. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, if y'all want some more story times, please let me know. Because my mom moved out when she was 15. So she got a buttload of stories.
You don't talk to the police. I don't care how innocent you are, you don't talk to the police. And if this video doesn't convince you, let's be. About a year ago, I get a call from an old client's buddy saying, a detective has called me. He wants to talk to me about something. Do you think I should go? And I said, absolutely not. You give him my phone number, and I'll handle it. The guy tells me up and down, I have nothing to hide. I've not committed any crime. It's him and another guy, okay? Both of them innocent. Both of them are not guilty of any crime. I'm telling you that. Take my word for it. You'll see everyone will end up agreeing with me, but both of them are innocent. And he said his friend got a call too from the detective, and they're both engaged in the same business. And I was like, tell your friend not to talk as well. I'm not his lawyer, but tell your friend not to talk. And my client was adamant. He's like, I haven't done anything wrong. Like, I can just talk. I was like, you are welcome to do whatever you want. But if you want to hire me, we're not cooperating. Okay? We're cooperating. We're going to go down to the station. But you're not saying a word. Long story short, we go down to the station. They tried everything to get my client to talk. And I kept saying, he's got nothing to say, he's got nothing to say. They even put us in another room so that we can talk, just the two of us. It was in their lunchroom so that there's no cameras and we can speak freely and blah, blah, blah. Because maybe your client wants to talk and you just can't talk in front of me, so let's do that. Then at the end, the cop tries to pull me into like his little cubicle. All right, I'm not supposed to show you this, but here's what I have. And if your client doesn't talk, I have an appointment to talk to the other guy tomorrow. And he's already told me everything. Okay? I'm just going to have him say it on the record tomorrow. And if he talks, then your client's fucked. And also, I already have enough to arrest him today if I wanted to. I'm just giving him an opportunity to flip on the other guy. And I was like, well, what's it to you? What's it to you which one of these guys gets flipped on? I like you, and I'm just trying to help out your client. I'm like, does this fucking guy think it's my first day? It's not my first day. So he's going through like what he thinks he has against my guy, and I was like, are we reading the same thing? I was like, this is not a crime. None of this amounts to a crime. It's a business, just so you know. It is a business that this officer clearly was not familiar with. He's not familiar with how the business works. And he thought that whatever it was illegal. And I'm like, this is a perfectly legal business. And he's like, well, we're just going to agree to disagree on that one. I was like, I don't think so. I think that you have to have a good faith basis before you arrest somebody. Like, you have a duty to make sure that it's a crime. I'm telling you, it's not a crime. And he's like, and I was like, tell me which crime it is. Tell me what crime it is. And he was like, oh, I'm not going to explain the world to you, ma'am. So he tells me that he's going to have no choice but to arrest my client on the spot. And I was like, do it. And then we'll bond out and we'll figure this out. But he's not saying anything to you. So pissed. He escorts us out eventually and crushes my hand as he shakes it goodbye and says, well, I'm going to be contacting your client or you pretty soon. It's not going to be as friendly as it was this time. I was like, are you telling me that you're going to arrest him later? Just do it now. I've got paperwork to do. Okay. All right, you have enough to arrest him right now. You don't need to wait to talk to the other guy, but you're just paperwork. So you're just going to do it like, okay. Long story short, the other guy went in. The other guy talked. The other guy got arrested. Because all they needed was a verbalized, like, admission that, yes, I am engaged in this activity. That's perfectly fucking legal. And whatever that guy said still wasn't enough to arrest my client. Because they needed my client to say, yes, I'm engaged in this activity. That guy got arrested. And today his charges were finally dropped. After a year. He was arrested in front of his family. He had to post a bond, a very high bond, because it was a first-degree felony he got charged with. He had to hire a lawyer and pay a trial fee. They didn't end up going to trial, but a retainer for a criminal defense attorney for the trial phase of a case is a lot higher than it is for pre-filing, for investigative stages, okay? So he was out of mint for a first-degree felony. He was on pre-trial release, so every time he wanted to go to Disney World with his kids, there had to be a motion to the court asking for permission. If he wanted to leave the Tri-County area, he had to get permission for a year for something. There was no crime. They eventually had to drop the charges, but the thing is that he had to go through all of this, and even though the charges are dropped, it's still on his record. And when they drop a case because it's bullshit, they don't make a note that says, oh, this is bullshit, and they don't delete it. They should just be able to delete it. If they created it, they should be able to delete it. They don't even take it upon themselves to expunge it for you, making you burn your one and only expungement that you're allowed in your entire lifetime. Expungement takes about a year and requires motions to the court. So that guy, because he was like, I've got nothing to hide, I'm not committing a crime, and talked, that guy got arrested, and his life was in turmoil for a year. And now he's going to have a mugshot for the rest of his life. And this case will come up, a first-degree felony, every time his background is run. And my client didn't fucking talk. And they never fucking arrested him. So if this doesn't convince you, I don't have anything else to say to you.
He got back with his ex like a week after we had a sleepover. Let's talk about it. This happened literally almost 2 years ago, but this story will seriously never get old. I go to a Halloween party. I literally am saying hi to all my friends. Pretty much know everybody who's about to show up at this get together. Well, this guy shows up and I have never seen him in my life before. And when I tell you almost every girl at this party was swooning and gushing over this guy, I mean it. In my mind, I'm like, oh, he's cute. But like, we're all obsessing over a guy that we've literally never seen before. Cool. When I tell you these girls were calling dibs, I mean it. I honestly did not care too much. Well, we all get in the hot tub. We're playing truth or dare. He gets a truth and it's like, who's the prettiest girl in the hot tub? He looks around for a second. We keep making eye contact. I'm like, this is really awkward. And everybody's silent, like waiting to hear his answer. And he points at me. He's like, you are. And I'm like, oh, thank you. I remember this like it was literally yesterday. It's so funny. Well, we all get out of the hot tub. I go upstairs. I change out of my swimsuit. I'm going down the stairs as he's coming up the stairs. Here comes my Riz. I go, I mean, I didn't want to say anything, but I think you're really cute too. Mind you, like this also happened almost 2 years ago. It's not something I would say now, but it was something I said 2 years ago apparently. At this point, he asked me for my number. We're all like kind of tired. So we're like, let's go watch a movie. It was Sandlot. I sit down on the couch. There's literally an open seat next to me. And one of my friends comes up to me and they're like, hey, like, is this seat taken? Like, can I sit next to you? I'm like, actually it is. And I look over at the guy that I've been flirting with all night and he walks over and he sits right next to me. And I tell you, we are literally squished into a seat made for one. For the duration of the entire movie, I seriously mean it. He like puts his arm around me and that's it. That's it. Literally, he puts his arm around me. He has his arm around me the entire movie. My mom, she texts me. She's like, I couldn't drive at the time. She texts me. She's like, hey, I'm about to fall asleep. Can I come pick you up right now or do you want to spend the night? And I said, I'll spend the night. You will never guess. You guys will never guess who else was spending the night. But you didn't guess it. It was the guy. And so then he's like, do you want like to wear my hoodie as PJs? Still makes me cringe. I literally said, no, like it's totally okay. I'm gonna borrow my friend's clothes. And I said that not because I didn't want his hoodie, but because that sentence and the way he said it made me cringe so badly. I'm like, Everyone low-key starts falling asleep, and the people left awake were me and my friend and him and his friend. So we literally are like, it's 3 in the morning, like why don't we just pull an all-nighter? So that's exactly what we did. Guys, I have never met this guy in my life, and here I am pulling an all-nighter with him the day I met him. We're literally sitting in a hallway. We're having the deepest conversations about life all night long. Seriously, like to this day I remember some of the conversations that we had. 7 a.m. rolls around, the sun starts rising, so we decide to go outside and like watch the sunrise. It was super overcast, so you couldn't really even see the sunrise, but like here we are, we're outside sitting on a bench, his arms around me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've made it in life. A guy cuddled with me. I thought him putting his arm around me during a movie was him cuddling with me. Who was gonna tell me? As I was leaving, I gave him a hug. I'm like, hey, like it was really nice to meet you. He's like, it was super nice to meet you too. I'm like, this won't be the last time we see each other. Spoiler alert, it was. So last year, after the whole incident, I made a TikTok about it. And his long-term ex-girlfriend saw the TikTok. So she sends me an Instagram DM, and it starts a little something like this. So his ex-girlfriend DMs me. And like I said, we got deep in our conversations the night we pulled an all-nighter. So I had already heard about this girl. But when she DM'd me, I knew exactly who I was talking to. We're sending like audio messages back and forth, and she's like, I had multiple people like send me your TikTok telling me like it was about. The word got out. Essentially. At the time, I had like 400 followers, which does not hold a candle to the amount of followers that I have now. And so it's still kind of crazy to me that word got out. She was mad at him because she knew that he went to the party, but she was never informed about who I was, and she had to hear it from my TikTok. He withheld information. We were DMing back and forth, and she's like, give me your number, I'm gonna put us on a 3-way call. So this 3-way call was not like a call, FaceTime call. They were both gonna see my facial expressions, and one thing about me is I don't hide anything in my face. She was so upset at him. I remember he was literally playing dumb. She would ask him a question and he'd be like, I don't know. She was such a girl boss too. She's like, you need to know. I don't exactly know how that conversation ended, but I just know she was not happy with the resolution. Conversation ended. Me and her did not keep in contact in the slightest. Neither did him and I. It all kind of just fell apart. I do remember they did get back together for a little bit, and then it just ended. Well, a couple months later, like she pops up on my For You page. She's with a new guy. I DM'd her. I'm like, girl, I'm so happy for you, and we're chill. Last year, I actually saw her at homecoming. She saw me from far away, and she smiled at me, and then I walked over to her and I said hi. She's like, how have you been? And I'm like, I've been good. How have you been? I'll just say that we are all chill now. It happened so long ago, like I genuinely think about the story and laugh. But one thing about that phone call is there was crying, there was yelling, there was happiness. Every emotion you could possibly think of was had in this phone call. I thought that like after the all-nighter that we pulled, after the conversations that we had, I literally assumed that we were talking. Never will I ever assume something like that again, because it gets awkward. That's honestly it. He never made an attempt to reach out to me again. After that Halloween party, I showed up to a Christmas party 2 months later, and I thought he was gonna show up, but he didn't. Another big mistake on my part was trusting him way too easily. Like I'm like, oh, we had all these deep conversations, he's so no, he wasn't. Moral of the story, don't trust a guy whose name starts with B. Just stay away from guys you meet at parties. They're bad news. You're probably asking yourself, Sophie, like if they found your TikTok once, like what if they find it again? Pretty sure both of them remember the story and laugh, so I don't think it won't affect any of us because it's not fresh at all anymore.
Would I be in the wrong if I pressed charges on a Karen at McDonald's? So while letting my 31 female $4 play at McDonald's today, other moms, 4 women, decided to keep commenting on how I must have my hands full, each woman only having 1 or 2 children themselves. Well, they decided to keep talking amongst themselves rather loudly about my kids specifically. My 2-year-old was playing tag with a few older kids and just having a good time when one of the moms asked my 2-year-old how much older her sister was while pointing to me. I was weirded out when the lady started arguing with my daughter about me being her mom or her sister. I got loud and told the woman to stop talking to my daughter. The woman started telling me about how kids with kids is so disgusting. My parents should be ashamed and how it's such a bad example for my little sister. I look 35, by the way. Literally arguing that I had my hands full and I shouldn't have brought these kids out because they outnumber me. At this point, my oldest perks up and starts yelling at the woman saying, my mom is so old she makes Google look young. Thanks, kid. Then, another woman in the group loudly asked me how old I was, and I just laughed and said, older than you. The first one wasn't amused and kept calling me a liar. I just tried leaving and she called the cops on me. She stood behind my car until the officer got there. The lady just started screaming like a banshee, telling the officer that I was a minor with a stolen car trying to kidnap other children at McDonald's. The officer laughed so hard because we graduated from the same high school. The officer then stated this to the woman, then proceeded to tell the woman that I'm indeed older than all of them and they all got charges pending now for wasting his time. Also, McDonald's staff gave up the footage of the first lady yelling at my 2-year-old, so harassment of a minor on her. Would I be in the wrong if I pressed charges on the Karens at McDonald's?